Welcome to today's live stream. I hope you are feeling well. Here we go again. We are back, everyone. Yeah! It's so good to be with you again. Hello, everyone. Hello, everybody over there in the corner. Why are you in the corner? I don't know why. Come closer. Don't be shy. That's better. Hi, everybody. This is Mr. Duncan. And also, you might notice something slightly different.
Yes.
At the start of today's live stream, we also have Mr. Steve, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. Beautiful, wonderful people from across the globe. I say it every week, but I mean it, Mr. Duncan. I mean it.
Do you mean it this week?
I do. No, I always mean it. You know I mean it because I love to integrate and look at the live chat and see what's going on, what people are saying.
If there's one thing you are very good at, Steve, it's integrating. It's mixing with the people.
Well, I'm going to be doing a lot of that next week, Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
which is the reason why I'm on with you at the start. Would you like to explain?
It's just a short one today. We only have a very short one, just 1 hour. So make the most of this because you will only have us today for 1 hour. Not a moment.
But why, though?
Not a moment longer or a moment shorter. The reason is, well, Mr. Steve has decided, some people might say foolishly, Mr. Steve has decided to go back to work, haven't you?
Yes, and I have to go tonight because I've got to be at the head offices of this new company I'm going to be working for, and it's a 3-hour drive, so I have to be there by sort of 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So there's no way I'm going to get up in time and drive through rush hour traffic.
Yes.
So I'm going to go tonight, and therefore we want to spend a bit of quality time together, don't we, Mr. Duncan? We want to eat. So that's what they say, quality time.
Quality time means time that you can treasure. Time that you can enjoy together before something happens.
Yes, so sitting in front of the television watching programmes would not be quality time. Sitting there, each of us with our own devices looking through WhatsApp or something would not be quality time. But sitting down, having a meal, going for a walk, quality time.
See, that's what they're all doing now on WhatsApp. Everyone is on WhatsApp. Have you noticed that? And I think, now I was talking to Steve about this. As you know, there are riots taking place at the moment across France. I think that one of the reasons why these things happen so often these days is because you have things like WhatsApp where people can join together and group together very easily and communicate. So I am waiting for someone to try and ban or at least make WhatsApp more, I suppose, so the authorities can also see what's going on.
That wouldn't be very popular, Mr. Duncan.
It would not.
It's the whole point of WhatsApp, isn't it? That you can do things secretly
without
anybody knowing.
It is all, it is encrypted.
Of course, if you're stupid enough, like certain politicians in this country, to hand over their WhatsApp messages to journalists, then they get themselves into trouble, don't they?
Not really the same thing.
Matt Hancock. But anyway, right.
But it is interesting to notice that I think what will happen is people will start blaming social media for what is happening at the moment in France. The strange thing is, though, we were there just a couple of weeks ago in Paris and everything was okay. So I was wondering whether people are getting angry because we left. I think people wanted us to stay in Paris longer. I really do. So some people might be getting upset because we left, you see.
So that's what it's all about. They're rioting because you're not there, Mr. Duncan.
There are other reasons as well.
Yes. It was quite serious. I mean, one of the mayor of Paris. I don't know if they've got more than one. Lewis can tell us. Has sort of had an assassination attempt.
Okay, I thought you were going to say a female horse then.
It seems to be getting very personal. But anyway, we're not here to really talk about that, are we?
Well, I only mentioned it because we were in Paris a couple of weeks ago. It seemed very relevant.
Yes, well, it is.
We were there.
It's very serious, isn't
We were
it?
actually there, and now we're not there, and everyone's going crazy.
Headline news.
Anyway, enough of that. Steve is going away. He's leaving me for a few days with his new job. I'm not sure if he's pleased or not. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet whether he's actually happy about it or whether he's upset. You can see now he's pretending to cry, but I don't believe. I think those are crocodile tears.
Crocodile tears. There's a good phrase, Mr. Duncan.
It is a very good phrase, an English phrase, crocodile tears. A person will pretend to be upset or pretend to cry when really they are not upset.
Well, I will be upset, and you know I've already been upset, Mr. Duncan, because we have not been apart for several years.
Well, I wouldn't say several.
Several
is 7 and more.
Several. Anyway, well, a few then.
Yes.
Quite a few years we have.
At least 3 years.
At least three.
We've been together permanently for 3 years. And now Steve has decided he can't stand it anymore. And he's off.
Well, you know, I just want the security of having a regular income again.
Okay.
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, that's a strange personal thing to...
Well, you know, when you used to, for 40-odd years, I was used to having a wage coming in, and suddenly it stopped. You get a bit nervous.
Yes.
So I just thought, well, let's try it for a bit longer, see what happens. If I don't like it, I can tell them to go and...
Well, probably
stick their job where the sun don't shine.
I would wait until you start the job before you start saying things like that.
In case anyone's watching.
Don't tell people to shove their job up their bums just yet. Wait until you've been doing it for a while and then tell them.
At least 6 months.
Yes. Anyway, Steve, once again, we're straying away from the actual topic. So I will be on my own next week, but don't worry. There will be lots of things still coming. I have my daily lessons. Can I just do a plug before you go off in another direction?
I was going to help you with the plug, Mr. Duncan.
Here we go. So there it is, the short lessons on my YouTube channel. The link is underneath this video, underneath there. And there are lots and lots of new videos already. There are around 18 new videos already. And I will be adding another one tomorrow and also on Tuesday, a very unusual one coming on Tuesday. Oh, now you're interested.
I was going to say, yes, Mr. Duncan is going to keep himself very busy, which means you are going to get a lot of content, as they say, a lot of new videos, a lot of English teaching, because Mr. Duncan wants to keep himself busy so that he's not thinking about me.
And also, we're trying to pay for the Paris trip.
True.
It almost bankrupted us.
There's another reason why I'm going back to work. But anyway, no, I'm only joking.
Yes.
We're joking, really.
Anyway, another thing more important than all of that is the live chat. Hello, live chat. Do you know who was first today? Well done to our super champion, Vitas. You are first on today's live chat.
And, of course, many other people...
Let the applause finish. Let them die down.
Many other people quickly following that. Francesca, who's here, who is in Italy, of course. Nong is here. Maliha, Asil, Connell, Vitas, we know. Lewis, of course.
Lewis, should I say Luis Mendes, who apparently was not involved in any of the riots. Can we just say that Luis Mendes was not involved?
Well, see, I was watching the news last night and I could have sworn I saw Patrick and Lewis throwing all sorts of things at shop windows.
Don't say that, Steve.
I'm joking. It's a joke.
Yes.
It's a joke, Mr. Duncan.
The problem is when
I saw them running on the news. They were there.
Yes, your jokes don't sound like jokes. They sound like statements of fact.
So is this really Lewis?
See, what you could have said is I saw Lewis and Patrick running around with a giant screen, a big screen TV above their heads. See, that would have been funny.
Well, I mean, it's great that they will let you watch us the live stream from prison. I think that's quite good, don't you?
Well, I am shown in prison. You know that, don't you?
No.
In France.
Is it punishment?
It is. Anyone who misbehaves. No, it's true. I'm not even joking. This is not a joke. In France, some of the prisons in France use my English lessons to teach the inmates how to speak English. And also, as Steve very kindly said, also it is used as punishment as well.
We're joking, of course. It's very serious what's going on in Paris, but, in France. And not just in France, in other places like French Guiana and other places like that.
Even
it's sort of
Belgium.
Belgium,
the
yes.
most boring place in the world.
Kicking off everywhere.
It's even happening there.
Of course, we had serious riots here, didn't we, back in whenever it was?
2009.
2009,
I remember that well. We had to lock our doors. We had to hide behind the sofa because people were running around. They were not happy as usual. Steve, we've got to concentrate today because already we only have 45 minutes left.
It's bent.
It's not the only thing.
Right.
We are looking at nostalgia, and I think it's an interesting word. I will be honest with you. To be nostalgic, to have nostalgia, and of course, because this is a short live stream, we are getting straight into the subject.
Can I just quickly say hello to Belarusia and goodbye.
Hello, Claudia.
Claudia's going. She's cooking. She's looking after her father, and she wished me well in my new job. So we'll see you soon.
Okay, Steve, we've got to move on again.
I know.
Here we go. Again. Nostalgia. They often say that nostalgia is something that never goes out of fashion because people always remember the past. So it doesn't matter what period of time you are in, Steve. It doesn't matter when you are. Nostalgia is always popular because people always like to remember the past. To be nostalgic. A person might sit down, and I think recently, for both of us, on a serious note, both of us have been a little bit nostalgic over the past few months because, first of all, Steve lost his mother last September, and I lost my mother in the end of March. So it's been a very strange few months. So I suppose when you lose a member of your family, when they die, I think you often become quite nostalgic. You will think a lot about those special moments.
And when friends get together, friends that you might have known for a long time, could be work colleagues, could be people that you went to school with, people you grew up with. Often people will reminisce. They will go over and remind each other of past events, and that creates a feeling of nostalgia. It's a feeling. Is it a feeling, nostalgia, would you say? It's a feeling?
I think it is definitely emotional. It is directly connected to your emotions. So it isn't just a word. It isn't just remembering. It is actually feeling those moments. It is something that you are almost wanting or desiring.
Yes. And I think what happens is you particularly as you get older, your mind or your brain seems to remember the past in a good way quite often. It tends to filter out the bad things, and you remember a lot of the good things, the feelings of happiness, the smells, the sights, the sounds even sometimes. I was looking through clearing out my mother's house. I've been doing a lot of tidying up in my own house, things that I've had when I was growing up, and just opening a box and smelling magazines and smelling certain things, that it suddenly brings back a whole cascade of memories and nostalgic feelings. And some people think it's unhealthy to be too nostalgic, but I think it's good to remember times.
I think it's normal, and it's always used positively. So this is actually a positive word. It's never used negatively. You never think of the bad days from your past. So to be nostalgic is to remember things that you remember. You might even say that you fondly look back fondly at one's past. So anything from your past that you remember with some sort of affection or maybe some sort of love even. So that's the reason why I mentioned our parents. Both of our mothers passed over the past few months, and that's where I've been a lot. I find myself quite often remembering things, little moments. There might just be a few seconds of moments from my past, but I remember them, and now they seem to have more value than it did in the past because they really do connect to something that is no longer there or no longer exists.
And we like to talk to our parents, people that are older than us that know us, because we've got that bond and we can each remember things that happened in the past. You know, one of your parents might say, "Oh, do you remember when you first went to school and blah blah blah," or "Do you remember when we bought you that Christmas present?" Or "Do you remember when we went to visit, or when we went on holiday?" And then you start to laugh and you start to remember, and this nostalgic feeling that makes you feel good. And it's good to look back because you can, in fact, sometimes you don't want to spend too much time in the past, but sometimes it's good to look back to remind yourself of what you've achieved, what you've done.
Exactly.
What type of a life you've had. And maybe that then helps you to plan what you want to do in the future, because you might think, "Oh, well, I don't think I've done enough. Maybe I should do this." Can help in that way as well.
Definitely.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Duncan.
So if you
Lewis just reminded us that Beatrice is on her way to the airport.
Okay.
As we speak, to Bristol. She's leaving England, flying back home to Buenos Aires. So if she's watching, which she might be in the taxi, but we doubt it, then we wish her well.
So bon voyage, Beatrice. I hope you have a super duper journey, a very long journey. I think it's about 14 hours back to Argentina. And I hope you had a good stay here in England.
I know you've already wished Beatrice a good trip, but I thought I would do it as well.
Okay, Steve. To fondly look back at one's past. You want to look back. You want to remember something from your past. A treasured memory, of course, very similar to what we just mentioned about our parents. So you remember things from your past. I also think that we often see nostalgia as a relived moment long since gone. And a lot of people will refer to the past, certainly things that they wish would return, as the good old days. I want the good old days. I remember the good old days. And people often refer to the good old days as the time when they feel, or they felt at that time, as if everything was better than it is now. But I just wonder if that is actually true. So to relive a moment long since gone. We often think about the places we live. We often think about maybe a building or a place that was there and is no longer there. We might think about that and almost mourn the fact that it's not there anymore.
Yes, and music, of course, is an important component of nostalgia, because if you hear a song or a record from your childhood, or when you first met your loved one, or something like that, something that reminds you of a past. Songs are very powerful, aren't they? And music in general. What was in the hit parade? What was in the charts? What was top of the pops back in, 1970 or something?
Yes.
Yes.
So I suppose for both of us, talking of the past, I suppose for us the 1970s is the era where we grew up and collected a lot of our childhood memories, and then the 1980s is where we flourished into teenagers and young adults. So a relived moment. You often hear people talk about the good old days. I remember when children were well behaved, not like now. They're all running around, they're swearing and and taken drugs and using their computer games. Oh, it wasn't like that when I was young.
Jimmy from Hong Kong remembers a word. Hello, Jimmy. Remembers a phrase that you've used in a past lesson. Salad days.
Ah, your salad days.
Your salad days.
Yes.
So well done for remembering that, Jimmy.
Those happy, carefree days, often when the summer is around you, the beautiful weather is there, and your salad days, your lovely, carefree days, the salad days.
You can watch a nostalgic film, can't you? A film can really bring back memories of the past, happy memories, a film which you might have watched 30 years ago or 40 years ago. And we like to watch carry-on films because they make us laugh, but they're nostalgic because they send you back to a time when everything seemed more innocent. It wasn't, but it seemed like it was, and it just seemed happy and carefree.
So when you think back over the past and you think of nice things, we can say to be nostalgic, or you think of something nostalgically. So you are casting your mind back. You are doing something in a way that was done in the past. So it is done nostalgically. To be nostalgic, to do something nostalgically. You are doing something for the sake of old times.
Sometimes people will say, I don't know if you're going to use this expression anyway, Mr. Duncan, apologies if you are, that sometimes people look back at the past and then somebody reminds them, oh, you're looking back in the past with rose-tinted glasses.
Yes, I might be mentioning that in a few moments.
Okay, then, right, I won't go into that.
No, that's okay, it's good. That's fine. You can mention it.
Well, I'll let you. Yeah.
It's not against the law. And we are going to show you some things from our past, by the way, some things that remind us of our long since gone youth. It is my birthday in a few weeks from now, about 6 weeks, I think. It will be my birthday, so I really can't wait for that. We are taking a little trip. We're going to have a little stay somewhere scenic and peaceful and relaxing, and we won't be doing anything else, nothing else, just that.
Pedro, this is the subject we're talking about. We probably will be changing it, but this is, we haven't gone on to this subject randomly. This is something Mr. Duncan has prepared as a subject of word to talk about. Okay.
Anyway, we might view the past through rose-tinted spectacles.
Ah!
There it is, what you just mentioned. So if you see things through rose-tinted spectacles, it means you see the past in an unrealistic way. Maybe you see the past as something pleasurable or lovely or safe, but maybe it is just your memory playing tricks on you.
Yes, because your brain tends to filter out the bad things. And for some bizarre reason, which is good actually, isn't it?
Yes.
That your brain tends to filter out the not so pleasant things, unless they're very, very unpleasant. I mean, if your parents beat you up, you probably will remember that. But I'm talking about generally you will tend to remember the good things and not so much the bad things. So you can often be accused of, you might be discussing something with a sibling. I sometimes discuss things with my sister, and we have very different views of our childhood, and it's quite different. See, I've got this sort of rosy view of my childhood, but then another sibling might say, "Oh, well, yeah, but do you remember that? This used to happen or that used to happen."
So something bad.
Yes, something not so good. And so for you it might have been pleasant, but for somebody else growing up with you, it might not have been so pleasant.
It is interesting that.
Yeah.
So even though you think your memory is 100% correct, you might find if you could go back in time, you might be surprised at how bad your memory actually is, because you've created these images from your past, and maybe it was not as nice as you thought.
There is quite a lot of science behind that. What happens to memories, how your brain sort of amalgamates memories in a strange way. It processes them with other memories and looks for things which are similar. And I don't exactly know how it works, but the inaccuracies can build up over time.
Yes.
Particularly, your brain can start to fantasize, and it can make up stuff, but you think it's real because that's how the memories have been formed in your brain.
I think this is one of the reasons why in law there are certain crimes that can't be taken to court, or a person can't be prosecuted, because if something happened 30 years ago, now can you remember what you were doing 30 years ago? Because I know I can't, and especially if you are referring to a certain date. So I think it can be difficult to remember very specific times, unless of course you kept a diary, or, as I like to do now, just film everything.
Just film everything.
Just film everything around you. And then those memories are there forever. They never fade away.
This is how, of course, when we were on our trips with members of our group from Paris,
Okay.
they were very, well, particularly, you could see how Mr. Duncan filmed everything. Beatrice is the name I was trying to recall then. Could see firsthand evidenced that Mr. Duncan films everything. And our memories do play tricks on us. They play tricks on us because quite often you might say, "Oh, Mum, I remember that green dress you used to wear," and she'll say, "Oh, it wasn't green. It was red." And you know, because your memory has somehow distorted the facts, and everyone's got a slightly different memory of something, colours and sounds and things like that. Anyway, yeah.
Yes, it is interesting. So we can look at the past in a way that is incorrect or even misleading. The things we remember bring about the feeling of nostalgia, and that's what we're doing right now, Steve. We are going to look at things from our past. So I've got some photographs of bygone times. Bygone. So when we say bygone, we mean things that have happened in the past and quite often are no longer around. Bygone. It's a great word, by the way, and we do use it. I know Steve probably thinks it's old-fashioned, but we do use it still. Steve, you have something to show us, first of all, because, as you mentioned, you've been clearing out your mother's house.
Yes, and also, see, I keep everything, don't I?
Yes.
I keep everything. I very rarely throw anything out. I've even got, exercise books from when I was at school. I don't like to throw anything out. I like to have connections to the past, physical connections. See, my sister's the complete opposite. She likes to move on. I like to have connections, and I like to be able to go and physically see things. Oh yes, and that reminds me, takes me back. I like that. So I'll keep everything. Do you want me to show something?
Show the thing that's in front of us, right in front of me.
Oh, this.
So this is something you found in your
You show that because yeah.
This is something you found in your father's office.
Yes.
And this looks like a simple device, but this is actually a very old device. So it's a calculator, but it's something I got quite excited about when Mr. Steve showed it, because this is a calculator that has the little numbers, but they light up. So they're not like the modern ones that don't light up. So I will show you. So there you go. You might just be able to see. There they are.
Green LEDs. Who remembers that? Yes, that must be 30 years old.
Yeah.
That and we were clearing out my mother's house, and I found that in a drawer, which was my dad's office drawer, and I remember that because I remember my father used to use that in his office. So that's probably from the 1970s.
So now it's on the screen. You can see it close up.
Yes.
So that is an interesting thing. It works on batteries, but also you can also plug it into the electricity.
Yes.
Which is really unusual. I don't think there are any calculators now that you can actually plug into the electricity, but that. And if you notice, can you see what it says on the screen there? It says 58008. But if you turn that upside down, it says something rather rude.
Does it?
It does.
We always used to do that at school.
That's it, exactly. So that's what we used to do at school. We used to find our calculators, our electric calculators, and we would
5, 8. What was it?
00,
00,
8.
8.
And if you turn it upside down, it says boobs.
Does it?
Yes, of course it. Yes, it does. You probably can't see it there, but it does. So that's what we used to do, you see, at school, because we were children. And that's what children do sometimes. They do things that are mischievous.
40 years old, at least.
Yeah, so this could be, I think it could be older than that. So this is amazing. This is an amazing thing. I was very excited when I saw it. I used to like the watches. Do you remember the watches?
Yes.
In the 1970s. And they used to have numbers, but they would be red. They would light up.
Red LEDs. The batteries lasted about a month.
Yes, they did. That's why they weren't very popular. But I always remember the first time I saw one of those. It was in a James Bond film, Live and Let Die. And I remember seeing that watch and I got so excited and I wanted one. But the problem was they'd only just been invented. And that was the first time most people saw that type of watch was in the James Bond film.
Well, Mr. Duncan, that brings me back to another piece of sort of nostalgia for me.
Oh.
Because I used to very, very much like doing electronics when I was younger. It was a very popular pastime. And here's a magazine that if you were keen on electronics, everyday electronics. This one is from June 1979.
Wow.
By the way, Beatrice is on. Hello, Beatrice.
Hello, Beatrice.
Are you in the taxi to Bristol? So it would give you projects. So I had a soldering iron. I would go off to a local shop. You could buy all the components like resistors, capacitors, transistors, and you could build things like, what's it got on this one? Build your own metal detector.
Yeah, look at
on
that.
On that particular one. And I used to love soldering and putting all the components together. And it would tell you how to do it. That's just news. Mr. Duncan.
But it's technical news.
But Mr. Duncan, Sinclair brought out something called the Black Watch, which was like the James Bond watch in the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
And you bought it in kit form and you put it together yourself. And I had the most futuristic looking watch with red LEDs. I mean,
Did you make it yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
You would put it together. It would come in kit form and you would put it together yourself. The only problem was they didn't work very well. They were notoriously unreliable. And when they did work, the batteries only lasted about a month. But there's nostalgia, Mr. Duncan.
Yes, it's a very, very good example. It's a good example of nostalgia. And I love here you've got this supplier of components. If you look on that page, there is listed lots of components that you can use.
Yeah. You can send off for them in the post.
But you need a magnifying glass to actually read what that says because the writing is so small.
It was great fun. I used to love doing it. Well, in fact, I used to like doing all sorts of experiments. Here's a book, one of my favourite books from my childhood, Mr. Duncan, The Book of Experiments.
Oh, okay.
So this is a book to teach you how to learn the sort of principles of physics and chemistry, but in a very simple way. You would use things around the house to do experiments with. So here's one. Make yourself a hot air balloon. And what do you need? You need a paper bag and some paper clips and some wire and a candle. And there you go. You could make yourself a hot air balloon.
Wow.
Have I got the right one?
You need lots of hot air.
Yeah,
so
but
so you could supply that with your voice.
But it was teaching you that hot air is lighter than cold air, and that's how you get a balloon. Make a bomb in an old tin with flour. Make a jet boat from a powder tin.
Yeah.
But all things from the house, and I made that one. You could even make one from an egg. You would boil the egg. You would blow an egg. put water in it, heat it up, and the with a candle, and then the steam coming out would power the boat along. It was great fun, Mr. Duncan.
Or there was another one where you could build your own atomic bomb out of a can of baked beans.
Yes.
And some string.
Well, I did used to make bombs.
Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to lead to a little thing here.
Go on then.
Just leading to something. And you can find out all about that in the new movie Oppenheimer, which is coming out soon. Am I the only person who is absolutely sick and tired of hearing about that movie? Everyone keeps talking about it. For goodness sake, just release the movie and move on. That's all I can say.
I'm just trying to see what year that was brought out, Mr. Duncan.
Yes, well, don't take too long.
1972.
First published in 1958.
Well, I got it in 1972. I would imagine most of the experiments in here now are far too dangerous for children to do.
Yes, I would imagine that if you had this book now and one of the secret services found out, or the authorities, they would probably kick your door in.
And then they'd take you away from your parents. That's what they would do now.
Would they?
Well, my father taught me how to make gunpowder.
Yes.
Anyway, right.
This does seem like too much information, to be honest. Here we go, nostalgia. When I think of nostalgia, I always think of the place where I grew up. And there it is. That is the place I grew up. The actual place in the 1970s.
It's amazing. There was no colour whatsoever in the 1970s.
Everyone was in black and white. Everything was black and white in the 1970s.
Incredible. I know we only had colour. When did colour come in? About 1980 something?
Well, I can tell you why. Because there were some strikes taking place. So the people who add colour to everything, they were on strike. So for about 3 years in the 1970s, everything was in black and white. And there it is, look. So that is the high street, the actual high street where I grew up. So I used to spend many hours walking up and down that street as a child, holding my mother's hand.
You see, in years to come, nostalgia takes a while to build up. In, say, 10 or 20 years' time, we're going to be looking back on the Paris trip. With fond memories of nostalgia. And we will forget all the horrific things that happened, and we will only remember the good things. It was all good. I'm joking, of course.
I really hope we forget. I hope we forget the bad things.
But that will be an incredible thing to remember in the future. But yes, I did Saturino. I had a chemistry set. And I used to do lots of chemistry experiments in my father's garage. My father helped me. And I've still got a lot of the glassware, test tubes, beakers, Bunsen burner. I've still got all those things from when I was a child. Although I've given a lot of them, I had boxes and boxes of glassware. Yeah. I've given it all to the local school because I can't keep hanging on to this stuff forever.
I agree. Throw it out.
HT wants to give me £50,000 for this book.
This book?
Yes, right, yes. That's it.
Well, it does tell you how to do lots of things that these days are I don't want to say illegal, but let's just say that they're not entirely...
Well,
they're not entirely lawful.
Well, no, it's just...
How to make a nail piano.
How to make a nail piano, yes.
Well, that doesn't sound very... That sounds like some sort of weapon.
Yeah, that's it. It was
anyway,
all telling
Steve,
you... but no, what I'm saying is HT wants to give me £50,000. If you can send it within the next 2 hours... You can have this book, and it means I can stay with Mr. Duncan. I won't have to go to work.
You need more than 50,000.
That'll be over a year's pay.
You do realise that living in England now is the most expensive thing ever?
Well, I'm just saying it'll save me having to go to work. So
£50,000 will last us about 2 weeks.
You know the PayPal account, £50,000. I promise you, I will send you the book, and then I can resign before I've even started.
Anyway, we have 16 minutes left. I've still got loads of stuff, and I hope we can also play the fill in the blanks before then. Here's another one. So this is the main square in Stafford. So that's where I was born. But look at that. So I feel, I'm sure nobody else does, but I feel a lot of nostalgia because I remember walking around that area with my mum and sitting on one of those actual benches.
Do you recognise anyone there, Mr. Duncan?
I recognise the lady walking away.
Really?
With the headscarf. I think she lived 5 doors away, and she let's just say she had a red light in her window
Oh.
on Friday evenings. I don't know what she was doing, but everyone was talking about it.
Who took that picture?
I don't know.
So it's not you. You didn't take
I
that
did not
picture.
take it, no, because I would have been about 5 at the time.
So
I wasn't
right.
when I was 5 years old. I wasn't yet taking pictures or videos.
From what I was hearing, Mr. Duncan, you were taking pictures when you were in your mother's womb. You had a camera. As soon as you came out, you were, hello, taking photographs and filming everything.
I always remember this
You
place.
filmed your own birth.
Okay, Steve, that's very funny. Very, very funny. I remember that one of the things I always remember about Stafford Town Centre is in the I think it was the late 1970s, a guy actually nailed his ear to one of the trees in the market square in Stafford. I don't know, I can't remember why. I think he was one of the local nutters. He was one of the local nutcases, but I always remember that as a kid. It's probably somewhere on the internet. Just look up Stafford Market Square, man nails his ear to a tree. And I always remember that. Anyway,
Lewis has got his first book from primary school. Still got it. Yes, it's important to keep things. I don't like to throw everything out. I like to be able to go through things and look at them, like my old exercise books. And it's funny because I've got to the age I am now, you look back and you don't recognise that person. Photographs of yourself, writing that you had at school, that could be anyone.
yes.
It could be anyone, but it's you, and somehow you can't quite relate to it.
By the way, a lot of people saying that that's Wolverhampton. It isn't. It's Stafford. So the place you were just looking at, that is actually Stafford. That's where I was raised as a child, and that is the Market Square. It looks very different.
You were born on one of those benches, weren't you?
I was. I think I was concepted.
Yes.
My conception took place on one of those benches.
I could have been on that bus, of course.
Well, on top.
Music star from Vietnam. I haven't seen you before, so welcome.
Anyway, we relived a bit of nostalgia last week because we went to Shrewsbury to visit one of the last of the chain of a certain burger outlet. So this particular fast food restaurant, there are only a few left now in the UK. And they used to be everywhere in the 1970s, all over the place. And there is Steve outside. So last week we went along, we had a lovely meal, and everything inside, all of the meals are still the same as they were in the 1970s. Even the menus look the same. Do you want to see a picture of me with the menu? Here it is. So there I am with the menu. And it looks exactly the same. But would you like to see a menu from the mid-1970s, Steve?
Is it exactly the same?
It's very similar, but you might notice the prices are a little bit different.
Wow.
So, for example, a cheeseburger was 37 pence.
Good grief.
Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible.
A cheeseburger, 37 pence.
What's the most expensive thing on there? A special grill for 76 pence.
So just a few pennies you can have a
Wow.
meal.
The salad seems a bit expensive at 68 pence.
That's interesting because people weren't eating salads back then. So it was, you might say that back in the 1970s, salads were a speciality dish. So it was almost like ordering something exotic.
It's a shanty salad, whatever. That's shanty. It refers to the sea.
Yes, I think it had fish. I think it was tuna.
A shanty salad.
Yes, so I remember all of these things. They used to have something called a bender sausage.
That was your favourite, was it, Mr. Duncan?
You can see it at the bottom there, just above the bottom of the screen, bender. And that was the meaty Frankfurter.
Is that what?
Sorry?
Is that what sent you into the way you are now, Mr. Duncan? Seeing the size of that Frankfurter on your plate.
So that is the past in the 1970s, and this is the present. And there I am. But the other thing I love about Wimpy, this particular chain, is that everything, almost all of the food on the menu, has a photograph. Would you like to see one of the photographs?
Definitely. And
So-
the other interest, while you're getting that photograph up.
No,
the
it's
other-
here.
Oh, right,
It just
okay.
takes me about 5 seconds.
Oh, what a shame.
So there it is. So I used to love the menus. I love menus that have pictures on them.
There's the shanty salad.
Yes. So you can see the Wimpy brunch, the Wimpy grill, the shanty salad, and also the Delta brunch. I don't know what that is. And then there was the Wimpy special grill, and of course the international grill.
That's a lot of food for, under £1. It's incredible, really.
Yes. So all of those meals were less than £1. Now, we went to the Wimpy last week. We had 2 burgers, baked beans, some fries, 2 drinks. £33.
Ouch. I know. It's a fast food restaurant, but it's unusual is it's an American style diner. They call it a diner. So you sit down and it's fast food, but they come and serve you at the table, because normally when you go to somewhere like McDonald's, you have to go to the counter and they give it to you. Sometimes but they won't come. You don't sit down and wait for somebody to come and serve you. But in this, it's a diner. They come up to you, take your order, go away, and come back.
And that's the way it's always been. So I remember as a kid, when my mum used to take me, my mum would take me to Wimpy, and we would. Right, Steve. Sorry, we're running out of time.
I'm going to work out what's the inflation rate over 40 years to get from 37 pence to £33.
Yes. Well, that was for the whole meal, though. So it wasn't just for a burger. It wasn't 33.
But it wouldn't have even been £1 if we'd had 2 burgers,
Yes.
would it?
Anyway, that's beside the point.
I bet it's 5% a year.
Okay. No one actually cares about that.
Well, I think they do.
Here we go.
How can you get a meal for £1?
I'm rushing because we only have 10 minutes.
Well, hurry up then.
Who remembers? Now, this is something I remember from my childhood. Oh, Steve. This is the bike that I wanted as a child, and I could never have this bike because it was too expensive. But there were some kids at school, and they came to school on their chopper bikes, and I remember being very jealous of all the other kids because they had their chopper bikes.
What was special about it? It was sort of it was almost looked like it was very trendy, wasn't it?
Well, it had the manual gear at the front. That was the big selling point.
And that seat, it's more like a sort of a motorbike, isn't it?
Yes, they call them choppers.
Yeah.
This is actually based on the type of motorcycle you see called a chopper. So that's why it's called a chopper, is because it mimics the style of the motorbike.
Makes you seem very street, very, very with it, very modern, as opposed to, the normal bike with its 2 wheels the same size, its handlebars high up. This made you seem cool. And all the girls would come after you, wouldn't they? It was more of a boys' bike, wasn't it?
I think. Well, you're about 12 or 13, so I'm not sure if all the girls were coming after you.
Well, yes, but it was. I remember they weren't particularly nice to. You couldn't go on a long bike ride on them. They weren't very good for that.
I never had one. I never even rode one. Did you? Did you know someone?
I knew someone that had a chopper. Euphemism for.
Of course, these days, if you ask someone to ride, if you ask someone if you can have a ride on their chopper, it means something different.
You've got to be careful.
Very different.
But yes, I had a friend that had a chopper, and I had a go on it, but it was very uncomfortable. No, well, I was too young. No, it was. It's not the sort of bike that you go on a long journey in because you're sort of in a strange position. The handlebars are up here, and it was difficult. It was a bit dangerous actually.
Yes,
you
well,
could easily fall off because you couldn't control it. It wasn't a racer bike. I had a racer bike.
That's the style of chopper, like
Yes.
the motorbikes. So the motorbikes, you often see the motorcycle gangs. They have those bikes, and the handlebars are really high up, and they sit right back like that. And that's really what this particular bike was emulating.
So there we go. It's interesting that restaurant was called Wimpy. Why was it called Wimpy? The name is a bit off-putting.
Yes. Well, the character from Popeye, his name was also Wimpy,
Oh,
and
right.
he was fond of beef burgers. He was always eating a beef burger. So I'm not sure which way round that was, whether the character Wimpy from Popeye was named first, and then Wimpy the restaurant chain was formed, or the other way round.
It sort of went out of fashion, didn't it? Then it became a bit of a joke.
Well-
Everyone started going to McDonald's. It
Yeah.
made you feel more with it and modern.
That's it.
And Wimpy's went out of fashion, but there's still a few around, particularly in places like Shrewsbury, which are very old-fashioned.
Well, there's only a few left in the country, so if you can find a Wimpy restaurant, you've actually found gold. You might need some gold as well to pay for the bill.
Anyway, right, move on, Mr. Duncan. We haven't got much time.
Okay. Here is something. Now, we were talking about cameras earlier. Would you like to see my first ever camera that I had when I was young?
Oh, not really.
There
Have
it
we
is.
got time?
Yes, we have.
Oh, right,
Because
okay.
I've planned this part. So this is my first ever camera. I didn't have a camera before this, so this is my disc camera.
That's quite an expensive camera, Mr. Duncan, for its time.
It was for the time. It was very, very sophisticated. But the only problem was the pictures were awful that it produced, because the negatives, as you can see, they were very small. And because of that, when you tried to have your photographs processed, they were not exactly clear. The resolution was small and low. So you could only have the photographs made quite small. But that was my disc camera that I bought many years ago. I think I bought it in 1982 when they just come out, and they were revolutionary. But of course, as we know, Kodak have been left behind now. So they are still trying to be relevant in the digital age.
Fascinating. Lewis says that if you're in London and you want to eat an inexpensive meal, go to an Italian restaurant. So I'm going to London. That's where I'm going to be next
Big
week.
deal.
So in the big capital. Haven't been there for probably 20 years. So, well, no, I did go there once with the company. So anyway, yes. So I'll go. We've got a budget. So we'll go to an Italian restaurant. So at the Big Smoke, as they call it. Let's hope it's not too smoky when I'm there.
I don't think they call it the Big Smoke anymore.
No, because
well, it's not very smoky.
The mayor has imposed all these restrictions on cars that can enter the city.
Yes. You can only go into London now if you are riding a bicycle or on roller skates.
You've got to hold your breath as well. Right, what else are we doing, Mr. Duncan? You were going to do...
Well, what else are we doing? We're actually going.
Oh, is that it?
It's almost time, yes.
We've got time for a quick word. We have got time for one of those.
No, I want to finish it. No. No, Steve. No is the answer to that.
Do one.
No, we don't have time.
Okay.
Because I want to spend a bit of time with Mr. Steve. He's going away for a week and I won't see him. And well, I'm being serious here, Steve. I want to spend some time with you. That giant pigeon came along then. I thought it was going to carry me away. That pigeon, did you see it?
What, on the screen?
Yes.
No, I was looking at the live
came
chat.
I thought it was going to carry me off. It was like a giant pigeon. It's time to say goodbye. Don't forget there are new lessons coming this week every day, almost every day. Almost every day. Here it is again on the screen. English Shorts.
Mr. Duncan's going to be very busy, so keep an eye out for his new lessons.
And who knows, I might even do a live stream during the week. If I get really, really lonely, I might have to come on and talk to you. And you might have to keep me company.
Do you want me to do some filming while I'm in London, Mr. Duncan?
Not particularly.
Because you can use the footage. Oh, I see. It's just all about you, isn't it?
Not with well, I'm just thinking of the way you handle a camera.
Well, I've got quite good camera technique, Mr. Duncan. But yes, anyway, it's lovely to be here, to see you all, if only briefly. And sorry that we're cutting this short. It's my fault.
Yes, don't be sorry.
It's my fault because I'm going away. Mr. Duncan wants to spend some quality time with me. I don't know why. Before I go, I'm only joking. I'm joking.
Steve, we've got 35 seconds
35
left.
seconds. So to all those who normally don't come on until I'm on, you're going to be sadly disappointed.
Well, you could just watch the whole hour again.
I know.
There's a whole hour of us together talking.
We haven't seen Christina today. She's on a bike. We know that.
Well, that's probably the reason why we haven't seen her.
Yes, but normally she stops under a tree and watches us.
It's very hard to ride a bike and use your phone at the same time.
Yes.
Time to go.
We haven't seen Tomek either, so I hope he's not on.
No, well, I think he's busy with his life. Everyone's busy.
Right. Lovely to be here. See you all next Sunday.
Yes.
You will see Mr. Duncan very often this week, but you won't see me until next Sunday.
Okie dokie. And, of course, until the next time we meet here, you know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Until the next time we meet. And, of course, until the next time Mr. Steve is here in the studio with me, you know what's coming next. Have a good week. And are you ready? Ta-ta for now.